Minister Michelle Donelan.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker, and congratulations on your new position. I must also congratulate the Honourable Member for Ipswich on securing this important debate today. Supporting children and young people with special educational needs and disabilities is one of my key priorities. So let me begin by stressing that I know and recognise that some families and teachers are unhappy, and both myself and the department are committed to listening to them. Whilst I am pleased that we have been able to secure an additional £780 million in high needs funding for the next year, we do realise that it is much more than just money. And I want to ensure that children and young people with SEND have the best chance in life, and that the system supports them to do this, which is why we have recently launched the SEND review. This will look at how the system has evolved since 2014 and how it can be made better for all families. Around 1.3 million children have special educational needs, and in Suffolk alone, 4,735 children and young people have education, health and care plans, and a further 11,369 are in receipt of SEN support for Suffolk schools. The Government is clear, Mr. Speaker, that our ambition for these children is exactly the same as it is for all children, and we want them to reach their full potential in school and college, and to find employment and lead happy and fulfilled lives. And I've seen this happening in my own constituency. The 2018 Ofsted CQC SEND inspection report for Wiltshire included that young people are increasingly well supported as they move on to adult life. In 2017, we introduced major reforms to the SEND system to improve and streamline the support provided to children and young people with SEND, and to put their needs and those of their families at the heart of the system. Local authorities, CQs, clinical commissioning groups and education, health and care providers have all been working hard to implement these reforms, and we recently heard from the Education Select Committee that they remain the right ones. But it is important to note that most parents do think that they get a lot of support through the parent-carer forums, and that they're providing a crucial voice in local SEND decision-making. The Ofsted and CQC inspections of SEND services see all local areas in England inspected by 2021 and have identified a range of strengths in the way local areas are delivering the reforms. The reforms made clear that SEND decision-making must be informed by and co-produced with children, young people and parents, and we played our part in securing that. We have invested heavily in the development of parent-carer forums in every local authority, and forums have received £2.3 million in grant funding each year since the reforms were introduced. Every local authority has in place an information advice and support service which provides impartial free advice for families, and we know from SEND inspections that in most local areas families really value that advice and support. We also know that most children in SEND are educated within mainstream schools and colleges, and we have committed to maintaining and developing still further and inclusive mainstream education system, and this really can work. I've seen that in my own constituency, where Abbeyfield's latest inspection showed that actually the experiences of their children are proving effective for all. So to support inclusion, my department has awarded a 2-year contract to Nason and University College London on behalf of the School SEND Consortium to help embed SEND into school improvement and equip the workforce to deliver high-quality teaching across all areas of SEND. And as I said before, I do know and appreciate that there are concerns, particularly from parents, about the way that the reforms have been delivered across the country. And while the strengths have been reported in every local area, SEND inspections have also identified weaknesses in many local services. And this does include Suffolk, whose inspection report was published in 2017, as alluded to by the Honourable Member for Ipswich, and it did identify issues with SEND leadership and governance, the timeless and integration of needs assessment systems, and the poor quality of the local offer. And nobody for 1 minute is denying or underestimating the importance of those grave concerns. And where we have seen those concerns, we have been working with partners, including NHS England. Support and challenge is offered to all areas that do require to produce an action plan through regular advice and monitoring from DfE and NHS England advisors, and through access to funded training opportunities and resources. I will.
I'm very grateful to the Minister for giving way. I mean, she's absolutely right to be open and clear about the challenges we face in Suffolk. But does she agree with me that this partly reflects the long-standing impact of the funding formula that's given our county a very low share of overall funding? And can she assure me that not only are we putting in extra funding next year, but that we will back send children in Suffolk in the years to come?
I thank the Honourable Member for South Suffolk, who has been an assiduous campaigner on this as well as other issues. And of course, it is important that we are getting the right resources and funding into these areas, including Suffolk, so they have the tools and ability to ensure that SEND children have the same opportunities, choices and chances in life. So I do recognise that in Suffolk there have been problems, but I do want to reassure the Honourable Member for Ipswich that we are monitoring progress closely, despite his comments earlier, because this remains a key priority for our department. And we are actually holding a formal progress review meeting later this month, including stakeholders and parents will be invited to that. Ofsted and the CQC did highlight several improvements, despite what the Honourable Member said, and since the original inspection we have seen a particular improvement in governance and leadership, from which one would expect the rest to follow. Improvements are also found around the access to speech and language therapy, positive work by outreach and inclusion services, activity to reduce exclusions, and the active role and contribution of the Suffolk Parent Carer Forum in shaping the development of services. And I know that in many areas they are facing pressures on their high needs funding budgets, which is something again that the Honourable Member for Ipswich stressed, and that is exactly why we have recently announced £780 million in additional high needs funding for next year, and this increase of 12% compared to this year, bringing the total amount of supporting those in need will be £7.2 billion. And every local authority will see an increase in high needs funding of at least 8% per head of the population aged 2 to 18, with some seeing gains of up to 17%. In Suffolk, the provisional high needs funding allocation for 2020 to 21 is £75 million, which was indeed actually 17% per head. A staggering amount that I'm sure the Honourable Member will actually welcome. And in May 2019, we also launched a call for evidence on the financial arrangements for SEND and alternative provision, and we are currently considering the responses, and we will also look at the high needs funding formula itself in due course to consider whether any changes are needed. Creating the right number of school places in the right settings is a challenge, which was also brought up in this debate, and that is why I'm pleased that Suffolk County Council is developing over 800 new specialist education places between 2020 and 25. This will include the establishment of 3 new specialist schools, up to 36 specialist units attached to mainstream schools, and the establishment of an in-county specialist setting for children with their most complex needs. As part of the Capital programme, Suffolk will be open to a social, emotional and mental health school in Bury St Edmunds, which I know my honourable friend, the member for Bury St Edmunds, has been instrumental in assuring happens. It is suspected that these schools will open across the next 2 to 3 years. And alongside Suffolk's Capital programme, through the DfE scheme, it is opening 2 special free schools in the Honourable Member's constituency of Ipswich. The Honourable Member for Ipswich has raised some important concerns here today, and I want to thank him for securing the debate once again. The Government has invested heavily in reforms to the system for SEND support, and local areas are working hard to all ensure that they are a great success. But we know there is so much further to go, and we also remain determined to tackle those issues as they exist. That is one of the reasons why we announced the SEND review. The review will consider how the system can provide the highest quality of support to enable those children and young people with SEND to thrive and prepare for adulthood, including employment. It will ensure quality of provision is the same across the country, and that there is joined up thinking across health, care and education services. Finally, it will ensure that public money is spent in an efficient, effective way to deliver for all children. So thank you, Mr Speaker. I am delighted to have the final word of this Parliament and on my passion for education, which I have always said has the ability to transform lives for all children, including those with special education needs. So I must stress that I am committed to work relentlessly with my colleagues across government to ensure that the system delivers for all children, those in Suffolk and up and down the country. Thank you.